श्रीमान वेंकटनाथार्य कवितार्किक केसरी वेदांताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि न्यासदशकम्. Today's slokam is the third slokam. First we saw aham madrakshana madrakshanapalam tata namama shripate revedi atmanam nitshipet bhutah. Second slokam nyasyam yakinchana shriman anukulo nyavarjitah विश्वास प्रार्थना पूर्वम आत्मरक्षा भरम त्वयि. टुडे इज द थर्ड श्लोकम. स्वामी स्वशेषम स्ववशम स्वभरत्वेन निर्भरम स्वदत्त स्वदीया स्वार्थम स्वस्मिन्यस्यति माम स्वयं. If we have Swami as the first word of the slokam, we have to say Nyasyati Mam Swayam. There is another patam, Swamin Swasesham Swabasham. In that case, it will be Nyasyasi Mam Swayam. Because if it is Swami, it becomes Nyasyati. It is the third person. If it is Swamin, it is Nyasyasi. It is the second person. So that's the difference. And both are acceptable. Both versions have been used by Swami Desikan. Nyasyati, Swami and Nyasyati in Nyasadasakam, and Swamin and Nyasyasi in Srimad Rahasyatrasaram, or it could be vice versa. So anyway, let's enjoy the meaning of the sloka. Swami, the master, the Lord, the Nathan, Emperuman, Swasesham, his session, that is me, his session. Nathanana Emperuman, the Lord who is Emperuman, his session, Swavasham, under his control, under his rulership, under his support. Mam, Adiyan. So Adiyan, who is the session of Nathan Emperuman, Adiyan, who is under the support, control, rulership of that Emperuman. Swadatta, having been given by him. Swadhiya, about Jnanam, about him, blessed by him, about the Tattva, Hita, Paravapurushartha, Ishvara, Jnanam, about him. Swartham, for his palan, for his fruit. Nirbharam, for now there is no burden for me, there is no burden of protection of myself for me. Swabharatvena, he has taken everything as if it is his own bharam, his own burden to protect me. Swayam, he himself. Swasmin, Tannidatil, he himself has offered to himself. So he has offered to himself. So Sriman Narayana is the Supreme Lord of all. Nathan, Swami, Swasesham, as his bonded servant. I am completely under his control. Swavasham, Swabharatvena, he blessed me with the knowledge about himself on his own accord, on his own sankalpam. He has accepted me, on his own mercy he has given me this jnana. And he has accepted me as his responsibility for protection. Swabharam. So, Mam, Swadatta, Swadiya, Swartham, Nirbharam. So, he has taken responsibility for protection. He has accepted me as his responsibility for protection. He has thus removed all my worries about my protection with that. With which one? With the jnanam he has given me. He has blessed me with. And the fruits of the protection also belong to him and does not belong to me. He has completely freed me from any connection with the fruit, with the bharam, with the burden, and it is all out of his own accord, out of his own free will, and he has accepted me. Swami, Swasesham, Swavasham, Swabharatvena Nirbharam, Swadatta Swadiya Swartham, Swasmin Yasyasi Mam Swayam. Swami, Swasesham, Swavasham, Swabharatmya Nirbaram, Swadatta Swadiya Swartam, Swasmin Yasyati Mam Swayam. Swami Sriman Narayana is the Lord of the universe, God of me, Adiyan, his servant. Adiyan is under his adhinam, Adiyan is under his control. He has blessed me with the right jnanam about him, about the Ishwaran, about the Lord. He has accepted me and protected me. He protects me as his own responsibility. And I don't have to worry about my Rakshanam anymore. It's been made possible because of the jnanam that he has bequeathed me with, blessed me with. The palan, the fruits arising from that Rakshanam, from that burden of protection, also belongs to him in its entirety. He accepts me with no palan, no bharam, nothing. So I am completely free. Such a beautiful manner he talks about. Now, there are something which is referred to in this Pasuram. Swami Desikan refers to his performance of Sattvika Tyagam that we do for every Vaidika Karyam. Sattvika Tyagam, the act of Sharanagati, self-surrender, presupposes the renouncement of threefold egoism. That I am the agent of action and it belongs to me and the fruit of the act is for me. That is Kartrutvam, Mamata and Palam, 3. So we should have Kartrutva Tyagam, that I am the agent of action should be renounced. It belongs to me should be renounced. That is Mamata Tyagam. And the fruit of the act is for me should be renounced. Palatyagam. The feeling that self is not the agent of action arises from the realization of the fact that the doership or the capacity to act is given by God to me or to him, the one who performs prapatti. The notion that the act of self-surrender does not belong to him comes from the awareness which is caused by the grace of God, from the knowledge given by him, because I am his session, I am completely under his control, and it is his sankalpam. The notion that the enjoyer of the fruit of the self-surrender, Sharanagati, is not himself or is not ours, comes from the understanding that the Sharanagati to be observed is only a pretext, is only an excuse to get his grace, for his pleasure, so that moksha can be made possible by God's grace. That's the primary responsible. That is the primary factor for getting moksha. Only Mukunda's grace is required for moksha. How to attain his grace is to please him. How to please him is to pay our folded hands, perform dandavat pranamams, offer sharanagati, fall at his feet, and then he takes care of that. So who is actually giving moksham? Sriman Narayana. Paranyasam does not grant us moksham. Paranyasam is not a visa through which we can go. It is to get his grace we perform this, which is also his ajna, and which is also he has told in Ahirbhujna Samhita, Bhaktya Paramaya Vapi Prapatyoham Mahamate. So in that he has said, Bhakti Yogam or Prapatti would only enable someone to get moksham, someone to do kainkaryam for me. So in addition to the realization of these Kartrutva-tyagam, Mamata-tyagam, Palatyagam, that is renouncement of the doership, renouncement of it belongs to me, or the renouncement of the fruit of the act, the act of Sharanagati should be accompanied with the compliance of the 5 angams that we enjoyed yesterday. So we should realize that Bhagavan uses us as the means to do things. It is not we who perform the act by ourselves. That is Kartrutva-tyagam. And two, we should realize that the benefits accruing from our acts are not the result of our act, but that of Bhagavan. That is Mamata Tyagam. Then we should dedicate the benefits of any of our actions also to Bhagavan and not look at the benefit as if it is belonging to us. That is Palatyagam. So that is why in this slokam, Swa appears 9 times in this slokam 3. Swamin, Swasesham, Swavasham, Swabharatvena Nirbaram, Swadatta, Swadiya, Swartam, Swasmin, Nyasyati Mam, Swayam. Swa appears 9 times. Each time referring to Bhagavan, that He is the owner of everything that we do, including our action, including the benefits from the action. Swami, Swaseshi, Swavasham, Swabharatvena Nirbaram, Swadatta, Swadiya, Swartam, Swasmin, Nyasyati, Mam Swayam. So, it brings us several doubts, questions, everything comes to us. It's all because we should get clarity. Here, the Atmanikshepa, or the self-surrender performed with the 5 angams, along with the prayer, as explained earlier, Prarthana Purvaka Bharanyasam, is considered as the Sa Anga Prapatti, or complete Prapatti, which alone serves as a direct means for moksha. Prapannat Anyesham Nadishati Mukundo Nijapadam. Other than Prapatti, Mukundan will not grant moksha. Nijapadam will not grant moksha. So, what is, we may get a question. What is Atmanikshepa or Sharanagati or Bharanyasam or Prapatti, which are the synonyms? What is that which is regarded as the principal component of Prapatti? The Shastram which advocate Sharanagati says oneself is to be placed to the care of God. So the individual self, the Jivatma, is not a commodity, is not a jewelry, is not an ornament that one wears. On the contrary, it's a spiritual entity that cannot be just handed over to God for protection. Besides, Jiva, according to Visishtadvaita Vedantam Sampradayam, is absolutely dependent on God and it is his property. So as an individual, as a Jivatma dependent on God and not having any freedom of his own, how can he hand over his soul to God? If the product which does not belong to one is to be handed over to another as if it were his property, would it not amount to kind of cheating? All these questions will arise in our mind. So what are the convincing answers for this? Swami Desikan writes, it's true that the self is not a physical commodity, and the question of it being handed over to God for protection does not arise. Atmanikshepa or Sharanagati does not imply that a transfer from one to another. It does not. On the contrary, it's something different, something subtle, something esoteric. The individual caught up in bondage of samsara, vicious cycle of birth and death from the anadi kalam, beginningless time immemorial, due to avidya, due to ajnanam, due to ignorance, due to our past karmas, which is accrued over eons, over ages, heaps and heaps of karma. We assume that the self belongs to us. The Atma belongs to, we are Swatantra, it belongs to us. And that the person, the Jivatma enjoys full freedom, thereby developing a sense of egoism. And after gaining the Tattvatrayam, the philosophic knowledge from an Acharya regarding the true nature of the Jivatma, and its dependence or relation or seshatvam or dasatvam to Paramatman, that we are always dependent on him, whether we know or not, regardless whoever it is, whether the person is an atheist or is any other country, any other religion, caste, color, creed, gender, insect, stavaram, any jivatma. It is his property and it belongs to him, whether we accept it or not. It is he who owns, period. We are all his Sariram. He is the Paramatma. And after gaining this knowledge through an Acharya regarding the true nature of the Jivatma and its relation to Paramatman, the Jivatma realizes that the self is absolutely dependent on God, and it is a property of the Lord, Sriman Narayana, and he has got no right or capacity to even take care of it. So with this realization of the true nature of Jivatma, he regrets over the wrong notion which he had inculcated or harbored or developed so far for so many millions of births. And with all sincerity, he pleads before God that the self does not belong to him anymore. It is God's own property, and he has got no power to take care of it. Whatever pleasure is derived from that feeling of its protection, that also belongs to God only. I exist for you. Atmanikshepa, self-surrender, is thus a specific mental state, mati vishesham, qualified by the three important notions that the self is not mine but the property of God. Swarupa Samarpana, that is the first one. That the protection is the responsibility of God. Bara Samarpana, that is the second. And the happiness derived from that protection is also that of God. Pala Samarpana, that's what we saw in the first slokam. Aham madrakshana madrakshana palam tata namama Sripate reveti atmanam Nikshipet Buddha, intellect, Jnani would know that. And that's with which Jnanam? With the Jnanam that the Jivatma belongs to him, the Jivatma exists for him, the Jivatma is dependent on him, which is already there, he just realized. So, along with that mental attitude, the individual seeking moksha should pray to God, formally requesting him, the Lord, to accept the responsibility of protecting his soul. That's the implication of Atmanikshepa. That's the implication of Sharanagati, or surrendering the self to the Lord. So that's what he says here, Vedanta Desika, myself, the responsibility of protecting it, the fruit of its protection is not mine. It is that of Sripati. It is in this manner that a wise person, an intellect, should surrender to God. Aham madrakshanapana namama Sripate revet atmanam nikshibedbutaha. Myself, the responsibility of protecting it, the fruit of its protection is not mine. It is that of Sripati, Sriman Narayana. It is in this manner that a wise person, the intellect, should surrender himself to God. So, Ahirbhujna Samhita also says the same thing. Sharanagati is a mental notion accompanied with a fervent, ardent, sincere prayer addressed to Perumal. That Perumal, God alone, should serve as the means for the individual to attain the palan, the moksha. And that is what is talked about in Ahirbhujna Samhita. So, a similar explanation is also offered by Bharata Muni. When it is found impossible to achieve a desired object by other means, a request made to God with an unshakable, unflinching faith that God alone is the means, along with the mental act of surrendering the self to the care of God, is Prapatti or Sharanagati, Bharata Muni says. Let's continue with the fourth sloka tomorrow. Adiye, Dhanyosmi. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha.